Dieting is killing you. I know it sounds a bit extreme, but I speak to over 200 women every single year, and I know firsthand the impact of diets. Diets are not just killing your metabolism and making you more prone to gaining weight, but they're also killing your connection to your spirit and your connection to your body's natural cues. See, the diet industry has convinced us that the weight itself is the problem, and eating less or doing a diet is the answer that we need. But the truth is that after spending a total of 17 years of our lives following diets, 80 to 95% of us regain all lost weight plus more. Why? Because the weight was never the problem. It was a symptom of a much deeper problem. And that's the issue that we have with diets today. They tell you to focus on the symptom rather than what's causing the symptom. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound and then wondering why it's turned into a deadly infection. In fact, diets are the best way to shoot your metabolism in the foot and to worsen the problem that you came to diets to fix in the first place. See, when you stress your body out with prolonged periods of dieting or undereating, your body ensures your survival by switching on its fat storage units and burning muscle for energy instead of fat. And essentially, your body responds to diets by building long-term energy reserves because the message it's receiving from the diet is there is not enough food. And this is why diets seem to work at the start, but after the first 1 or 2 weeks where we're losing weight, your body hits a plateau. It just freezes. It stops burning fat for energy because it's receiving the message that there isn't enough coming in. And eventually what happens, you get frustrated that your efforts aren't yielding any more results, and you go back to your old habits. And then your body eagerly rushes to store everything that you're eating, again, because it's perceiving that there might be a shortage of food long term. And you gain weight. And you don't realize that the diet you just did put your body in survival mode and trained your body to lower its metabolism and store rather than release fat. This is something I wish I knew when I set out to lose weight over 25 years ago. It would have saved me a good decade of my life. I remember I was a young girl growing up in Egypt in a home with an angry, aggressive dad and a mother that would always comfort me with food. When she'd see that I'm upset or see that my dad just finished yelling at me or telling me that I'd never amount to anything, she'd bake me something delicious to eat or give me some chocolate. And so I learned at a very young age how to eat my emotions, but never how to talk about my emotions. And for many years, I believed that feeding myself was an act of self-love. I hadn't yet realized that food actually had no ability to emotionally soothe me. If anything, it was just numbing me, disconnecting me from the emotions. I'm 13 years old, 49 kilos overweight, and I start to realize that all the girls have a boy interested in them, but not me. And my young 13-year-old brain immediately puts it down to my weight. My weight is the issue. And I decided I need to lose the weight to be lovable. And of course, I did what most of us do. I did every diet on the face of the planet. Keto diet, cabbage soup diet, carnivore diet, tried cutting back on portions, skipping meals, exercising excessively. I did it all. But all the diets did were put me in a position where food seemed like my only friend, but also my biggest enemy. I loved food, but I hated what I was told it was doing to my body, causing me to gain weight. And that's when I went from somebody who was just struggling with eating her emotions to somebody who was struggling in episodes of dieting, followed by episodes of binging. And I'd lose the weight and regain the weight, lose the weight and regain the weight. And I concluded at that time that the issue was I'm just not disciplined enough. And so I resorted to being better at punishing myself. And I did. I did more exercise and I ate less food, but still, I never addressed any of the emotions that were driving me to eat for a sense of comfort or control in the first place. Now I'm 20 years old. It's been 8 years since I started dieting. I've lost 20 of the 49 kilos through becoming excellent at punishing myself, but I've also shot my metabolism in the foot. No matter what I do, I just can't seem to lose any more weight. And it seems like if I just look at food, the weight piles on. I remember coming home from work one day and old difficult emotions of loneliness and unworthiness started coming up. And I find myself responding to those feelings by eating bowls of oats and peanut butter, followed by cereal, followed by toast with some melted cheese, followed by Nutella. I eat until I put myself in a food coma. And I wake up the next morning and I feel disgusting. My stomach hurts. Everything feels bloated. My belly's out to here. And the last thing I want to do is try to find something that looks half decent on and go out to be seen by the world. So I drag myself out of bed. I stand in front of the mirror and I look at myself with disappointment and disgust. I did it again. I failed. I let myself down again. I comforted myself with food. I ruined everything. I look myself in my eyes in the mirror and I hear myself say, "You're a fat, disgusting pig. Who's ever going to love you?" It wasn't the first time that I'd spoken to myself like that, but it was the first time that I realized that I had run away from Egypt, run away from my entire family and everybody that I felt abused me. And here I was on the other side of the planet, abusing myself. Suddenly, I saw that little 6-year-old girl inside me who just wanted so much to be loved. Even her attempt to lose weight was all to finally be loved. And here I was, abusing her with diets and restriction and neglecting her emotional needs and calling her a fat, disgusting pig. It broke me. And I fell to my knees on the ground and I wrapped my arms around myself and I sobbed with 6-year-old me. I suddenly saw so clearly that I had no idea how to love her or myself. I suddenly saw how much I had been abusing her and pushing her to fight for her worth in my own eyes. I cried and I sobbed as I said to her, "Baby, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I promise I see you now. I promise I'm going to learn how to love you now." That was the day that I quit diets. That was the day that I quit self-punishment. That was the day that I quit doing it because I hated myself and started doing it because I wanted to learn how to love myself. I quit counting calories, stopped buying fat loss pills, stopped skipping meals, and started hearing what I needed emotionally and spiritually. Suddenly, my focus wasn't on food, it was on me. I realized that food had no ability to emotionally soothe me, and that no diet in the world had ever addressed the emotions or reasons why I was eating when I wasn't physically hungry. If anything, the diets worsened it. The diets were killing my spirit, my connection to myself, and my metabolism. But that obsession with food disappeared, and I lost 49 kilos. Over 14 years ago now, never to be regained again, even after becoming a mom. And the peace that comes from knowing weight and food will never be a problem again is a gift that you can't get from diets. But now I want to share with you the 3 lessons that I learned that allowed me to turn my back on diets and lose the weight permanently. The first thing I learned was to listen to my body and nourish it when it asks. Diets don't do this. If anything, diets teach you to ignore your body's cues. Raise your hand if your body gives you cues when it's time to go to the bathroom and pee. Yeah, hopefully none of us are ignoring those cues. Well, guess what? Your body also sends you cues when it's hungry, when it needs nutrition. It even gives you signals of what it's craving. If you're a woman, maybe you notice that around that time of month, when you have your cycle, you crave more red meat. Why? Because your body's low on iron. Your body knows, sends you looking for red meat. If you're somebody who craves chocolate all the time, there's a big chance your body's low on magnesium. Cocoa is very high in magnesium. Your body knows. Your body is wise beyond our comprehension, and it's always communicating with us. And young children are actually very in tune with their bodily cues. We all are, until someone says to us, you can't leave the table till all the food on your plate is finished. Then we train ourselves to ignore our fullness cues and even the cues for what our body is craving. By the time we grow up, listening to other people's food rules, by the time we've done a diet or two, we've learned to ignore our body's cues for hunger and fullness. We ignore our hunger and we delay eating, and then we come home famished and eat past the point of comfortable fullness. I found out that ignoring your body's hunger cues is actually associated with binging and obesity. But the people who are able to hear their hunger cues and respond by feeding their body tend to eat just to the point of comfortable fullness. And that pattern is associated with a healthy weight range. So I learned to listen for and honor my body's polite hunger cue. Not when it was famished, when it slowly or gently tugged at me and said, hey, I think I'm getting hungry now. I fed it. I started feeding myself, noticing the taste, the texture, the temperature of the food rather than scoffing it down. I ate consciously and paused and listened for the comfortable fullness cues. Essentially, I reconnected me to my body, whereas previously diets had taught me to disconnect from my body and eat according to the clock. Over time, I didn't just rebuild my metabolism, which diets had previously shot on the foot, but I also restored the trust and safety within my body. My body was finally able to trust that enough quality food is coming in when needed, and it no longer felt the need to hold onto anything for reserves. It received the message that it's okay to let those reserves go because it is safe, and there's always plenty more food where that came from. Which brings us to my second lesson. The second lesson that I learned that helped me turn my back on diets was to take food off the pedestal. Take it off the pedestal. See, diets teach you to have food rules. Don't eat after 7. Don't eat carbs after 2. No gluten, no chocolate, no sugar, no bread, no alcohol, no eating out. Not allowed, not allowed, not allowed. But what happens when something is not allowed? It becomes enticing. Do you know that 80% of the excitement and joy that comes in an affair comes from daydreaming about having what you're told you can't? Not actually being with the person. It's in the anticipation. The anticipation of having something you're not allowed to have. Same thing with chocolate. 80% of the enjoyment happens in the anticipation of eating the naughty chocolate, not the actual eating of the chocolate. So when we say, everything's not allowed, this is not allowed, this is not allowed, this is not allowed, what we're doing is we're putting it on a pedestal. We say to ourselves, ooh, I'm not allowed that, but I would love to eat that, but I'm not allowed. And then we have a moment of weakness and we do eat it, but do we just eat like the one biscuit or do we eat all the biscuits? We eat all the biscuits. Do we eat to the point of satisfaction or to the point of uncomfortable fullness? Uncomfortable fullness. We go overboard because we've told ourselves this is not allowed. So when we're eating it, we're like, oh, this is not allowed. This is the last time I'm going to have it. So I better eat as much as I can now because after this, I'm not allowed to have it. This got me in a cycle of restricting certain foods and then binging on them. That's what diets taught me. And finally, I took food off the pedestal. I stopped fearing it or worshiping it like it was going to run out tomorrow. That was the old pattern induced by diets. It was training my body to be a fat storage machine, to survive my episodes of skipping meals or over-restricting or saying things are not allowed. Today, there is no food that's not allowed in my life. Everything is allowed. I've gotten rid of the old scarcity mentality that said, this is not allowed. And so when you have it, you better have as much as you can because it's not allowed. And I replaced it with an abundance mindset with food, that there's always plenty more where this came from. that nothing is not allowed. If I decide I want to have a burger and fries, I will allow myself to have the burger and fries, but I don't need to finish every single fry, because guess what? There's plenty more where this came from. I can enjoy it and eat to the point of comfortable fullness and move on. So the second lesson was take the food off the pedestal. Go to an abundance mindset. Stop restricting and saying that things are not allowed. Nothing is not allowed. And the third lesson that allowed me to completely ditch the diets that were killing my metabolism, my relationship, and connection to myself was to be present with myself enough to notice what I'm feeling rather than eating what I'm feeling. I'm going to say that again. To be present enough with myself to notice what I'm feeling rather than eating what I'm feeling. See, diets don't ever touch on the topic of emotions. They don't teach you what to do with your emotions. They teach you to ignore them or not consider them and just be a good little robot and eating what you're told to eat and how much you're told to eat. But when food has been your only emotional crutch for years and it's taken away and you're not given any other tools, you fall deeper. And when you scramble and grab for food, for a sense of comfort, you fall even deeper. The greatest trick of the diet industry was teaching you that weight loss is about addressing the disordered eating habits, when really the disordered eating habits are a symptom of a deeper problem. Sometimes we eat for a sense of control. Feeding ourselves was one of the first ways as children that we got a sense of independence and control. So if we're eating for a sense of control, should we just stop eating when we feel out of control or uncertain or afraid in life? Should we just stop? Or should we learn how to meet the need for certainty and safety in a resourceful way? So the need to eat for certainty is gone. That's the difference between addressing the symptom versus addressing the cause of the symptom. So the emotions that we were taught to ignore as we obsess over diets and counting calories all carry very important messages for us. In fact, your emotions are an emotional guidance system. Every single one of the 80 different emotions has a unique vibrational frequency, and each emotion is there to give you an important message to guide you toward what you need. Anger is there to show you that somebody has crossed your boundary or that you didn't set and firmly hold your own boundary. The message there is often people are reflecting back to your own relationship with yourself. You don't respect your boundaries, people don't respect your boundaries. The message here is value yourself and your opinion of yourself more than the opinion of others. Don't be afraid to set and hold a boundary. There is a reason the anger is coming up. Fear is there to draw your attention to a lie or a truth that's been perverted and is causing you to isolate and hide yourself. Fear is asking you to revisit that story and assess how true it is and assess the impact the story you're holding on to is having on you. Every single emotion holds a vital message and lesson for your spirit. And when you're just focused on obsessing about food, you miss all of that. But when you ditch diets, you restore the connection to your emotions and spirit. We stop trying to fix the symptom and instead start addressing the cause of the symptom. We stop trying to force change in our eating habits and instead listen to our emotional needs. And we start meeting our emotional needs rather than feeding the emotional hunger as though it's a physical hunger. Diets never teach you how to do that. In the end, I discovered that weight loss isn't just about nourishing your body, it's about nourishing your spirit. So as an act of self-love, ditch diets. Ditch the diets that have been killing your metabolism, killing your peace with food, and killing your connection to self. Thank you.